Hey guys, Allison here, and The Burning Maze is coming out in 3 months! I'm hyped. Are you hyped? You should be. And seeing as Rick recently released, oh wow, that was alliteration! Since the sneak peek recently came out, I figured now would be a good time to discuss some theories and my thoughts on the excerpt. Let's get started. Oh, by the way, guys, spoiler alert, if you haven't read, like every Rick Riordan book in existence, aside from Big Red Tequila and that series, just the Rick Riordan saga of children's books about mythologies, but also about really deep social problems, and, I'm gonna stop now. Just read all his books, and then you can watch this video, and if you haven't, go away. Kicking things off, let's talk about Georgina, that little girl that Apollo might be the father of. He's not. That's the theory. That's the theory.
It's free real estate.
In The Dark Prophecy on page 270, there's a scene where Trophonius possesses Georgina to send a message to Apollo, and he says, "You sent this little sister of mine to do your errands?" And by little sister, he is referring to Georgina. Because of this, we all assume that Georgina is Apollo's child because Apollo is the father of Trophonius, and Trophonius called Georgina little sister, so that means that Georgina is Apollo's daughter. But that's not exactly what he's saying. For all we know, they could be half-siblings related through a common mother, not father. Oh, by the way, did you notice my shirt? It's a reference to a reference we made in the Derpy Hidden Oracle video, which is part of Trials of Apollo and note Trials of Okay, I'll stop. Anyways, Georgina and Trophonius could be related through a common mother, and I think this mother is a character that we haven't met yet because of the secrecy surrounding Trophonius' mother when she's mentioned in that one scene where Apollo has a dream about Trophonius killing his brother. On page 97, it says, "I didn't recall who his mother was. The wife of King Erginus, perhaps?" And given how we know that Agamethus, I don't know how you say it, that's just how I do. We know that Agamethus is the biological son of King Erginus or whatever, and his wife, the queen. And they believe that Trophonius is the son of, you know, the king and the queen. But he's actually a son of Apollo and a mystery woman. Well, wouldn't it make sense if it was the queen? I mean, it makes logical sense. However, Apollo seems unsure of this, which makes me think that there's more to that mother than meets the eye. Also, the wording in the scene where Trophonius says, "Oh, little sister," That really catches my attention because Trophonius hates Apollo. I wouldn't put it past him to purposefully mislead Apollo into thinking that he's the mother of Georgina just to mess with him. And yeah, it works because Apollo has had so many kids that he just kind of forgets about, and actually standing face to face with one of these bastard children of his, he feels really bad. Also, the girls' mothers are there, and you know, that doesn't make his guilt any better. So yeah, if Trophonius really did intend to purposefully mislead Apollo, it worked. I also have a second theory regarding Georgina's parentage. My second theory regarding Georgina's parentage is that Apollo is the father, but the mother is Sally Jackson. Okay, hear me out. Theoretically, it is possible that Apollo and Sally Jackson, mother of Percy Jackson, hooked up because Percy attended a lot of boarding schools growing up. That means he was away from home for long periods of time. American schools usually run 9 to 10 months. So yeah, theoretically it's possible that she could have gotten pregnant and Percy didn't know. And yes, Percy has been expelled from every school he has ever attended. Maybe he got kicked out of that particular school that he attended while Sally was pregnant. What if he got kicked out of it like a week before school ended? That way, he was gone the entire pregnancy. But why would Sally give up her daughter? Well, she already had Percy, who is an extremely powerful demigod, and monsters are drawn to really powerful demigods. Imagine if Sally had 2 kids in the house. 2 demigods, mind you. They'd be screwed. But why send her to the way station instead of Camp Half-Blood? Well, Sally knew that sooner or later Percy was gonna have to go to Camp Half-Blood to learn about who he really is and to learn how to use his powers. If she sent Georgina to live at Camp Half-Blood and that Percy went to Camp Half-Blood later, that would make things really awkward, because Percy would be like, hey, Mom, why did you have a daughter and never tell me? And then she'd have to answer some really awkward questions. So she sent Georgina to the way station, far, far from Camp Half-Blood, where Georgina could be raised by two lovely old ladies who have more experience taking care of demigod children and have better facilities to do so, and are just all around more capable of raising a half-god. There's even evidence in the Hidden Oracle that Apollo is attracted to Percy's mom. When they meet, Apollo thinks to himself, I understood why Poseidon had been so smitten with her. Sally Jackson possessed just the right combination of compassion, strength, and beauty. She was one of those rare mortal women who could connect spiritually with a god as an equal, to be neither terrified of us nor greedy for what we can offer, but to provide us with true companionship. If I had still been an immortal, I might have flirted with her myself. But I was now a 16-year-old boy. My mortal form was working its way upon my state of mind. I saw Sally Jackson as a mom, a fact that both consternated and embarrassed me. So yeah, Apollo straight up says if he wasn't a 16-year-old boy, he would have hit on her. And Apollo lost a lot of memories. So yeah, he could have had a fling with Sally Jackson. Also, when Apollo and Meg show up at Percy's house, and they ring the doorbell, and Sally's like, who's this? And Apollo's like, it's me, Apollo. And she doesn't say anything, it's just silence, right? Until he, is like, yeah, Apollo, like the god Apollo. And then she goes and gets Percy. Maybe the reason she hesitated so much was because she was being confronted with her former lover. But in all honesty, I think that this theory is kind of, it's pretty unlikely, but it does make sense. It does make sense. My other theories aren't nearly as... One of my predictions is that Clarice is going to play a large role in this book. We know the book's going to take place in Arizona, and we also know that Clarice grew up in Arizona because they mention in, I think it was either the Battle Labyrinth or Titan's Curse, that Clarice's mom's house was in Arizona, where Clarice lived, and, that's how they found an entrance to the labyrinth there. And in the Hidden Oracle, they mention that Clarice is currently attending University of, you guessed it, Arizona. The fact that they reiterate that Clarice is Arizonan in the Hidden Oracle, a really recent book and part of the Trials of Apollo series, makes me think that it's gonna be irrelevant in, well, the Trials of Apollo series. I mean, we are going to Arizona. Clarice is gonna be a part of this. I know it. I know it. I have missed that girl so much, you don't even know. Another prediction I have revolving around characters is that I think that Jason and Piper are going to be a big part of this new book. Because the Trials of Apollo series has 5 books. You know what else is composed of 5? The number of main ships in the Heroes of Olympus series. Persebeth, Jace Cyper, or Jaceberg, I don't know. Phrasal, Cleo, and Solangelo. Solangelo is debatable, but half of Solangelo is Nico D'Angelo, and he is a major character in the Heroes of Olympus series, so I'm counting it. In the Hidden Oracle, we focused on Solangelo. In the Dark Prophecy, we focused on Cleo. I think in the Burning Maze, we will focus on Jaceber or Jacecyper or whatever. Then that means that, book 4 is going to be the Phrasal book, and the finale, of course, will be the Persebeth book. Rumors have already started that Jason and Piper are going to be a big part of the book. This theory just supports it. Also, I want to talk a little bit about what comes next in regards to the Trials of Apollo series. Book 1 focused on Nero, the Emperor on the East Coast. Book 2 focused on Commodus, the Emperor in the Midwest. Book 3 is focusing on whoever the third Emperor is of the West Coast. But then we have 2 more books after that. What are they going to be about? Well, I think it's going to tie everything together. Rick has frequently called the Trials of Apollo series a goodbye series. Yeah, it's about Apollo and Meg, but through their adventures, they run into various characters from the Percy Jackson and Olympian series and the Heroes of Olympus series, and sort of like wrap up loose ends with their character arcs. It's like a Percy Jackson where are they now sort of thing. Because the Heroes of Olympus series left us with a lot of unanswered questions, and so the Trials of Apollo series is sort of there to fill in the blanks. And since Rick has called it a goodbye series so many times, there's a good chance it might be the last series in the Riordan verse. So you know what that means. That means we busting out the mango cheeses, get the Kane Chronicles involved. We bring it all together for one big epic finale. I think at the end of this third book, I think they're going to discover that it's not just the emperors that have come back. I think there are other mythical figures who have. If enough people view you as a god, eventually you kind of become a god. Because this is the Riordan verse and this guy makes the rules around here. The Roman emperors definitely convinced people that they were gods, but they weren't the only people in history to ever do that. There are plenty of people within Norse mythology and Egyptian mythology who have convinced people that they the real deal, yo. The conflict within the Trials of Apollo series, it doesn't just revolve around, Greeks and Romans. It kind of revolves around everybody, and, if people in his books are able to become gods by convincing people that they're gods, that shouldn't just apply to the Greeks and Romans. It's much bigger than that. So I think at the end of the third book, once they face this third emperor, they're going to discover that there are many more aside from the emperors, and they're going to have to deal with that. And it might involve other mythologies. I think the incorporating other mythologies part is a maybe, but I do genuinely think that the third book will end with them discovering that it's not just the emperors that have come back. Sorry, I had a hair in my mouth. Oh, and one more theory. I think Michael Cowley will die. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. Cowley? Cowley? You probably don't remember who that guy is. He had a really small role in Blood of Olympus. He was a Roman son of Venus, and he was like Octavian's bodyguard who noticed that Octavian was gonna, kill himself, and he was like, not my problem. He's a pretty obscure character, but see, Rick has a tradition when it comes to characters named Michael. They all die. I don't know why, but Rick keeps naming characters Michael and killing them. I think someone offended him, and that someone was named Michael, and there was Michael Yu. Michael Yu was the first Michael to die in a Rick Riordan book. He died in The Last Olympian. RIP. Then there was Michael Varus, that one Roman guy who went to Alaska in the 80s. He also showed up in Blood of Olympus as a ghost, ghoul, zombie, evil something that shouldn't be in this realm. But yeah, point is Michael Varus died also. Oh, what about Michel de Harchens? I don't know how to pronounce things. I am sorry, France, for butchering your French person's name. Oui, mon ami, je m'appelle, sorry. But yeah, that French guy from the Kane Chronicles, that Michel de Harchens, he died. I ran out of space. I was gonna walk back, but then And then, clocking in at Rick's fourth Michael Kahale. Now I gotta apologize to Hawaii. I'm sorry. We know that there's going to be a battle at Camp Jupiter. It was foreshadowed in the Dark Prophecy and foreshadowed even more in Ship of the Dead. There's going to be a battle at the Roman camp, and we know that Michael Kahane is from the Roman camp, so boy gonna die. Rick Riordan Michael's more like 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, am I right? So yeah, that's it for the theory section of this video. We are going to now move into the excerpt section. If you haven't seen the sneak peek, it was posted on Entertainment Weekly's website. I'll leave a link in the description. Go read it now, it's not that long. Goodbye. I love you. These are my notes. First off, I didn't think it was a very good excerpt. I thought it was kind of jarring. Okay, so it starts off with Apollo being all like,
Zeus is making me write this, and it sucks, Damn it, Zeus!
I didn't like that. Apollo has always been a very self-aware narrator. He loves to directly refer to the audience. He'll say stuff like, this part was hard to write, or he'll say, oh, good reader, you understand me, or stuff like that. He says stuff like that all the time. But there's a difference between breaking the fourth wall and having no fourth wall to begin with. An example of having no fourth wall to begin with would be in the Kane Chronicles. In the Kane Chronicles, they're like, hey guys, Kane Chronicles here. The Kane Chronicles is framed as a audio recording. They pass the microphone back and forth. There are even moments within the book where they say like, give me the microphone, or like, my turn to tell this part of the story. That's just part of how the story is structured. This sort of structural deviation was never established in Trials of Apollo, so it just feels really jarring. Like, there's a difference between an actor walking out on stage, looking directly at the audience and saying, what just happened? Versus, hello, yes, this is a play, you are the audience, my name is Jeff, except not really, I'm actually an actress, and I'm just here to get paid. Also, I really like the sound of my voice bouncing off the walls, applaud me! That's pretty much how this book started off. Now, if that was established from the very beginning, that like, if in the Hidden Oracle, it starts with like Apollo actually saying that Zeus is making me write this. This is a book in which I am aware that I am writing a book. But the only real fourth wall breaks are when he just says, reader, really. I like the way you think, good reader. This part is hard to talk about, good reader. You're my only friend, reader. He never really says, I am writing this. That's pretty much how this book started off. And I would have been fine with that if they would have established that that was the structure of the story from the beginning, but they never did. And by beginning, I mean like beginning, like Hidden Oracle beginning. They didn't, so it felt weird and I didn't like it. Moving on. Just to keep it going on this negativity train, I feel like Rick didn't do a good job establishing investment from the very beginning. Like, yeah, I love the series. I'm a big fan. Of course I have pre-established investment, but when you start a book, you gotta re-establish it. And no, that doesn't mean just plot summary of the previous books. That means reminding us of why we love these characters so much. And no, by that I don't mean just going like, this is so-and-so, they're quirky. I feel like this first chapter that we were given didn't really have a hook to it. I think the best opening in a Rick Riordan book would be in The Mark of Athena. From the first page, you're hooked. It's narrated by Annabeth. This is a character that we've known since forever, and yet we've never heard her narration. So from the first page, you are like, oh my god, this is Annabeth we're reading from. I'm invested. That's a good hook. I'm not saying we should have started The Burning Maze from Meg's perspective. That would be even further messing up the established structure of the story. But you need to give your audience a reason to care that doesn't rely on the care that they had in the previous book. I feel like this sneak peek was just a lot of plot summary and just reminding the audience, this is Meg. This is her thing. This is Grover. This is his thing. Meg is the daughter of Demeter, and she fights with 2 swords, and she likes to make chia pets. This is Grover. He is a Lord of the Wild, and he's supposed to know the way, but he does not know the way.
You do not know the way.
And I am Apollo, and I am a god, but not really, but I might say not really a god because I am losing my powers. Speaking of which, I thought that was really cool. Apollo has become slowly more human on an emotional level. He's become more emotionally mature. I find it really cool that that is now translating to a tangible level. The more human he becomes, the less godly he becomes, so naturally he starts to lose these godly abilities and he becomes more like a demigod. And I'm not saying mortal because, you know, mortals don't have those funky dreams like demigods do, so I think he's becoming the equivalent physical manifestation of a I almost said a bodyguard. A demigod. I'm tired. I just like the idea of this internal change translating into an external change. What I did not like, however, was Rick directly telling us this. From the moment that Apollo started saying that he was having visions and his godly powers have become less accessible to him, I was immediately like, oh, he's actually becoming more mortal. The longer he is away from his godly power, the harder it is to grasp that, I guess. I got it. But then immediately after, Apollo's like, I think it's because my internal change is mirroring my external change, and I'm like, dude, show, don't tell. It's a classic rule in storytelling. If a character is having development, they shouldn't say, I am having development. No, they should just have development. They shouldn't say it, they should just do it. Otherwise, it sounds really condescending, like we can't already figure out that they're having development. So yeah, you're probably like, oh no, Allison hates the burning maze and she's never going to... The whole book is gonna be terrible. I didn't really like the beginning of The Dark Prophecy that much, but I ultimately loved the whole book. I don't see this as really... I don't think that's necessarily going to reflect the entire book. But hey, I don't know. For all we know, the book could be crap. I'm not definitively saying The Burning Maze is going to be a bad book. I'm just saying that this first chapter didn't really do it for me. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's your opinion? Tell me in the comments below. Like, subscribe, check out our Twitter. Tweet our videos at Rick because I want to get his attention. Hey, that letter we wrote in our last video, it might not be enough. Love you all. Okay, bye.
Do you know the way?